Building muscle is crucial for older men for increasing overall well-being and increasing your quality of life. Hey man, Gary Walker here, and welcome back for another video. All right, in this video, I'm gonna tell you how to build muscle at home after 50. When you do get 50, there's a lot of different things you have to consider. Now, when it comes to working out, a lot of the things are the same. A lot of the foundational principles are gonna be the same. However, a lot are not. Now, I know that sounds confusing. Well, if you're looking through social media, it's a very confusing time in the fitness space, especially for men over 50. I've been doing this for 3 decades, and what I did when I first started is not even close to what I do now. And now I've got clients that are in their actual 80s. So I kind of see all the subtle changes that have to take place for men to get results, whether you 40, 50, 60, 70, and again, even 80 years old. There's small things you need to really consider. Yeah, a lot of the foundational principles are gonna be the same. You wanna lift weights, you wanna lift heavy enough weights to make sure you're stimulating your muscle, but heavy is relative. What was heavy when you were a 20 or 30-year-old isn't the same type of heavy now that you're 50, 60, 70, or beyond. That's one of the things I'm really going to get in. But first, it doesn't matter what you do when it comes to working out if you don't have your nutrition in check. So the very first thing you need to make sure you're doing, you wanna eat enough food, you wanna eat enough calories. So if you're one of the guys that eats 1 meal a day, which for some reason, a lot of people were doing that. A lot of older people that come into my program, I do have a very successful coaching program for older men. When I first get people into my program, I'm shocked at how many people do the 1 meal a day diet or 2 meals a day, or don't even get 100 grams of protein in daily. Now that's not an optimal way to build muscle for anyone, but especially when you get 50 and older, because when you're 50, you're already fighting age. You're fighting something called sarcopenia, meaning your body doesn't really think it needs muscle anymore. So it's your job to prove it wrong. You need to work it. You need to feed it. So if you start stimulating those things, it's gonna actually help you by putting on more muscle, because you're telling your body you still are trying to build muscle. Hey, you're not an old man. You're still in your prime. You're still doing the things necessary. You're staying active. You're lifting weights, and you're gonna do some of the things I'm about to share with you. Yes, the first thing, eat enough calories. Basically what I like to do is there's a lot of BMR calculators out there, basal metabolic rate calculators. It just gives you a general guideline of where to start. For instance, if it's telling you to start at 2,000 calories, then start at 2,000 calories, and I want you to track your feedback. So make sure you're eating 2,000 calories, and I really want you to prioritize protein. So protein is gonna be one of the most crucial macronutrients. You got protein, you got carbohydrates, and you have fat. So you wanna prioritize your protein. Basically, if you get around 30 to 40 grams of protein every 3 to 3.5 hours, that's gonna be sufficient to make sure you are maintaining muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. That's gonna make sure your body has enough amino acids when it needs it to build and repair muscle tissue from the workouts you're gonna be doing. Again, we're about to talk about the workouts, but none of that works without the nutrition. So feed your body. The easiest way, I usually say 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal weight. So whatever your goal weight is, if you wanna be 180 grams, and 180 grams is the high end, but if you're getting 140, 145 grams of protein, yet you're still getting your 2,000 calories, you're going to be fine. So that's the goal. So get your 2,000 calories, prioritize your protein, and keep track. What happens on the scale from 1 week to the next? Did you gain anything? Did you lose? So if you worked out, you lost a pound, you're not eating enough. If you worked out, nothing happened, don't make the change after the first week. Let your body get acclimated to the workouts and the new eating that you're doing. So you're eating 2,000 calories that first week, nothing happened. Let's go to 14 days, which is a second week. What happened? If nothing changed, add more food. So 2,000 was your starting, add about 200 more calories, bump it up to 2,200 calories. So that's what you wanna do, just 200 calories over your maintenance. and let's see what that does after a week or 2 weeks. So you want to make sure you are doing that consistently though. So that's the first thing. So the first thing, calorie surplus can be a minor one. You don't want to go from 2,000 calories to 3,000 calories because we're not trying to put more body fat on. We're trying to build lean muscle tissue. So just baby increments of about 200 calories. Now let's get into the workouts though. The workouts are going to be crucial as well. That's one of the biggest differences now that you're older. Back in the day, when you're in high school or college or even your 30s, your mindset was lift as heavy as possible. Lift heavy, eat a lot of food, and you're going to grow. Well, that's the last thing you want to do now that you're older, because now we're dealing with wear and tear on the joints. Primarily, the most that I see is shoulders. Again, I've got a ton of guys in my coaching group, and it seems like 80% of those guys either have shoulder issues or have had shoulder issues in the past or have had surgeries for shoulder issues. So it's just a multi-purpose joint that gets used a lot. The last thing you want to do when you have wear and tear on your joints is start loading the joints with too much weight. So one of the things I like to tell my guys is just because you're strong enough, just because your muscle can handle a weight, doesn't mean your joints can. That's the biggest difference once you get 50, 60, 70. Your joints can't keep up with the muscle strength. So you've got to be careful. A lot of my videos on this channel, I talk about building muscle with lighter weights. That doesn't mean getting extremely lightweight and doing 20 to 30 repetitions. What I mean by lighter weight is you don't want to lift so heavy that you can't push more than 5 reps of a weight. So if you take dumbbells, for instance, and we're doing dumbbell bench press, let's say you get 50 pounds, they're so heavy you can only do 5 reps or less. That's way too heavy. So you want to use some intensity techniques instead of just going up in weight all the time. So some of those intensity techniques are like my Tricon sets. That's the whole reason I developed my Tricon sets. This allows you to keep a lot of tension on the working muscle without having to overtax the joints. So Tricon sets are phenomenal for building muscle without having to use really heavy weights. So that's one of the techniques I like to use. Another one, superset training. Superset training allows you to add more intensity and more tension on the muscle without overworking the joints with heavy weight as well. Another technique is pre-exhaust sets. Let's say you have a really strong chest. Let's go back to the chest example. And you can push 70-pound dumbbells. Just because you can push 70-pound dumbbells doesn't mean you need to push 70-pound dumbbells. So what I have my guys do when they start increasing strength is start with an isolation chest exercise like a chest fly or a cable fly, something like that. 3 sets, 20 repetitions, make the chest work without having to use a lot of weight. Now, once your chest is pre-exhausted, it's full of blood, then you'll do your compound exercise like a dumbbell bench press or something like that. And you're not gonna be able to use near as much weight, nor do you need near as much weight to work that muscle because it's already pre-exhausted. Well, that's one of the big benefits of doing pre-exhaust training. So those are some of the best techniques that's gonna allow you to continue to build muscle across your entire frame without needing to go to the heavy weight range. One other technique, great intensity technique, is Titan sets. So basically all that is slow eccentric based training. So take 5 seconds to lower each rep. So it's basically going back to the bench press example. And again, you can do this with everything. It's just easier to visualize and mentally think about doing a bench press. If you have dumbbells, take 5 seconds to lower 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005. A slight 1 second pause and explode the weight back up. You don't need to go slow on the way up. It's just slow on the eccentric base, which is the lowering portion. Let's visualize a squat. If you're doing goblet squats, you have the weight here, then you're gonna lower your body using a 5 second cadence. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, same thing. 5 seconds to lower, pause for a full second, and then explosively raise yourself back to the top. Do that for each and every repetition and you're gonna get phenomenal results. So it's another great technique to use. Next tip, you gotta make sure you're challenging yourself, okay? What I usually recommend is 2 reps in reserve. So what that means, if I give you an exercise and I tell you to do 8 to 10 repetitions, The weight you should be working with, you should be able to lift 10 to 12 repetitions, 2 more reps left than what the weight allows. Meaning, if I say 2 reps in reserve and you're using a weight that you can probably do 15 or 16 reps with, it's too light. So that's what I mean by challenging yourself. The weight needs to be heavy enough within that rep range to where you only have 2 reps in reserve left. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, let's do bicep curls this time. If you have some 30s and you're supposed to do 8 to 10, the 30s you can barely do 10 or you can do 11, maybe 12 if you give it everything you got. That's the perfect amount of weight for your sets. However, if you have 30s, you're doing 12 knowing that you've got another 2 or 3 left in the tank, then that's not heavy enough to really challenge yourself to stimulate that new muscle growth. And that's one of the main things you've got to focus on is challenging your body. You've got to give it a reason to grow. So that's the easiest way to do that. Now, another thing though is progressive overload. That kind of piggybacks off of what we just talked about with challenging yourself. If you challenge yourself for 3 or 4 weeks, so when I design my programs, I do everything in 30-day phases. Strength-based stuff, I like to do 8 weeks, so it's 60-day phases, but most of my hypertrophy or muscle building stuff is a 30-day phase. Whatever weight you use over 30 days, I want you to try to increase that next phase. So again, if you found the perfect weight to make you fail within the 8 to 12 rep range, then that doesn't mean you need to stay there forever. Because again, your body is great at adapting. If you're using the same weight 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months into your training, your body's already adapted to that stimulus and it's not gonna grow more muscle. You gotta give your body a reason to grow more muscle. So again, you're challenging yourself and you're using progressive overload. That means you're either increasing a little bit more weight, increasing a few more repetitions, or adding an extra set to add more volume. All those are good forms of progressive overload. Last, consistency and patience. All right, muscle growth isn't like fat loss. So that's another thing I share with my clients all the time. People assume it's easier to build muscle than it is to burn fat. That's not the case. If you do everything perfect as a man over 50, you may be able to gain 5 to maybe 8 pounds of muscle in a year, depending on whether you're a newbie or somebody that's experienced. Again, when you first start working out, there's something called newbie gains. You can gain more muscle. After you've been working out for a while, then you pretty much hit your genetic potential. So you have something called muscle memory, meaning you can gain muscle quicker, but you're not gonna build new muscle tissue. Probably 5 to 8 pounds in a year is what you're looking at of lean muscle tissue, and that is great. Again, each decade that number goes down. 5 to 8 in your 50s. When you get into your 60s, it may be 3 to 5. When you get 70s, it's even less. A pound of muscle tissue does great things. 5 pounds, even more. So building muscle is crucial for older men for increasing overall well-being and increasing your quality of life. So there's a lot of benefits to doing that. Now, going to the fat burning side, you can lose 5 pounds in 2 weeks, easy. Whereas you're spending a whole year trying to gain 5 pounds of lean muscle tissue. So that's why there's a massive difference and why it's so much harder to build lean muscle tissue compared to just burning body fat. Hopefully all this makes sense. I really want you to implement these strategies. And if you're not familiar with my Tricon training or anything like that, even pre-exhaust sets, drop sets, supersets, a lot of the intensity techniques, then make sure you search Gary Walker YouTube, Gary Walker Tricon, Gary Walker, anything like that with one of these techniques, and it's gonna pull up a lot of the videos I have out there demonstrating how to do them and how to do them correctly. That way you're getting the best results from them. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. And as always, get busy, get after it, and God bless.